Hey everyone, Matt Motley here. I was looking at a position that was open for the company Academy the other day, and they offered a gate guard job at $175 a day with a 7.5% pay bonus for the completion of the contract. Now, I was a former gate guard and master-at-arms for the U.S. Navy, so I definitely qualify for the position, but then I began to kind of look into it. Now, it was a work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day for a year-long contract. So that's 6 times 4 weeks per month, which comes out to 24 days. And a single monthly paycheck before taxes was $175 a day times 24 days, or $4,200. It sounds sweet for a guy who just stands at a gate all day. But it's not, and I'll get to that. So that's $4,200 times 12 months a year, which comes out to $50,400 yearly. So around $50,000 a year gross income. But you also have a 7.5% completion bonus, and I really don't know how they factor that in, so I can only guess that it comes as a bonus paycheck at the end of the year, which should be factored in as bonus pay on the total amount. So $50,400 times 7.5, or 0.075 if you're following along with the calculator, is $3,780. Added to the yearly total, you get $54,180 for the year's gross income, or in the neighborhood of $55,000 a year, which still sounds pretty sweet for a gate guard job. But it's not, and like I said, I'll get to why. You know, you can stand in one spot for 12 hours a day, right? Well, that's what a gate guard does. Now, let's compare it to the military benefits. Whenever I was working at CFAC Chinhae Navy Base in South Korea, where I spent a good portion of my U.S. Navy career, people can come and rent out one of the E7 barracks rooms at the Navy Lodge for $40 a night. Now, those are the rooms that you get assigned to whenever you're an E7 and you're not married. So you can go rent out those lodges. Now, they tore down the galley in late 2007 to early 2008, so everyone has to eat at the Turtle Cove now, which is the restaurant on base, or at least the one that's not attached to the bar. Now, the RIK meals there, which are the ones that come for free, are $10 to $15 a pop before taxes. So let's take the low end of that for the sake of argumentation. Now that leaves us with $40 for the room every day, plus $30 in meals every day, and 3 meals daily, 3 times $10. It adds up to $70 a day. That's how much it costs you to live on base in South Korea, where I spent around 2.5 years. For the month, that's $70 a day, 4 weeks per month, 7 days per week, or 7 times 4 equals 28. Now, 28 times 70 equals $1,960. If I'm going too fast, pause the video. So around $2,000 a month if we round it off nicely. But I should note here that all meals in the military are buffets unless you're eating meals ready to eat. A buffet normally costs a minimum of $20 before taxes in the civilian world, but I lower these prices of the meals for the sake of argumentation, okay? So this is just for argument's sake. Now, a person coming straight out of boot camp has around $1,400 to $1,600 a month to his or her name, according to the official military pay chart that they use to pay everybody in the military. Now, here's how my bills break down in the civilian sector, just to compare. Now, I live in a shitty apartment in a high crime area, so I only pay $350 a month for the rent here. But I pay an extra $50 for the best internet in my area, which rounds it out for an even $400 a month. I spend $400 on food and supplements as well as medicine. Anything that I consume or put in my mouth is included in that price. It adds up to $400 a month. So if my math is right, we're already up to $800. I spend another $200 on gas, oil, and anything I need to do to keep my car running. But it's an old car, it's all paid off, and in all technicality, it's not even mine. So we're at $1,000 now. My electric bill comes out to around $300 a month without assistance, so I'm looking at $1,300 a month just to exist in my shitty apartment. Around $100 a month goes completely unaccounted for in small transactions. Either I'm buying aspirin or Tums or a little something here or there, or going to see a movie, something like that. I'm looking at around $1,400 a month just to exist here in the civilian sector. Now those are my bills. So to start, the person getting straight out of boot camp makes a minimum of $2,800 a month in their compensation package, which isn't $4,200, but I'm getting there. You get where I get that number from. They get the $1,400 to $1,600 a month, and then I added on the amount of money that it cost them to simply live on base in South Korea and eat there. And so you get it. Now, whenever I went to South Korea recently in the civilian sector, I lived there a while and it cost me $20 a month to use the subway in Seoul to get around, which lowered my transportation cost $180 a month. Or my gas and maintenance in America was $200 minus the $20 I spend on subway tickets instead, or $180 a month saved. My rent after a huge deposit was $300 a month, which saved me $50. The electricity was cheap as hell at $50, saving me $250. So we're at a total savings now of $180 plus $50 plus $250 equals $480, which is almost $500 a month saved from the move just at that point. Now you see why I moved to South Korea. Food was also far cheaper in South Korea, and I ended up spending only 1/4 of what I normally spend on food there. Now, I also eat local, in-season foods instead of coffee and canned tuna. I don't care about organic and stuff like that, so I'm not a complete moron like most English as a second language teachers that are working there that think the food is expensive in South Korea. 1/4 of $400 is $100. So we're at a grand total savings of around $800 a month. 1/4 of $400 a month on American food equals $100 or $300 saved. So that's $1,300 to $1,400 down to $500 to $600. But let's call it $700 for argument's sake. Let's say that it's really not that cheap to live there, blah, blah, blah. But I still am, I cut my bills in half just in the move. Remember that part in case you don't care about the rest of this presentation. Now that would mean that a person straight out of boot camp makes a solid $1,400 plus $700 compensation package for the $2,100 a month in a foreign country. But I'm not done yet. The past 3 years, I've survived entirely off of clever planning and the post-9/11 GI Bill housing stipend. Clever planning includes international moves like the one above and subletting and a couple of other weird little things I've been doing here and there, but I digress. The lowest the post-9/11 GI Bill housing stipend will pay is around $1,323 a month, which is what I've survived on all of this time. You mathematicians out there can see that I don't actually make enough money to pay my bills, which is where the subletting comes in, but that's another story. The maximum allowable housing stipend is $2,700 a month, which is reserved for rich upscale areas like New York, Honolulu, Hawaii, and San Francisco, California. For those not in the know, if you attend full-time classes, which is usually 12 credit hours a semester or around 4 classes taken 3 days a week for a grand total of 12 to 15 hours of work. If you count homework, then you'll get this housing stipend to help pay the bills. Well, that's what I've been surviving off of ever since I left the military in March of 2011. So military people get 100% of this benefit after working active duty for 3 years. So a person coming into the military for a 3-year contract gets the extra $2,700 a month of value and added benefits, or $32,400 a year to work about 15 hours a week. So that's $2,100 a month in a foreign country plus $2,700 for $4,800, or a stateside benefit of $2,800 plus $2,700 for $5,500 a month compensation package. So we're already past academic benefits. But wait, there's more. Now, the academic job had me work 6 days a week or 24 days a month, but that's my same job in the Navy had me work 14 days a month, or half the month in the same hours. There's some complicated mathematics involved, but if I worked as much as the academic guys, I'd have to make significantly more on my base paycheck. Now, the benefits are pretty sweet, but we're forgetting a couple of things that we'll throw in here with the military job. I got free medical, and it's the best healthcare in the world. Now, I'm not talking about the doctors on base. The doctors on a military base are not the most skilled doctors on the planet. They're not the worst doctors either. They're somewhere in the middle. But if the doctors can't give you top-notch health care, they'll fly you somewhere that will and pay for the trip and pay the doctor that's there. So, for example, my buddy broke his back in Korea, and they flew him from Korea to Japan, Japan to Hawaii, and Hawaii to the best spinal care facility in the world, which apparently is located near his hometown in Virginia. They covered the medical care costs and the travel costs in both military and civilian sectors the entire way. Free healthcare is free healthcare. No primary care providers. They will get you the healthcare they need, whether or not they personally have it. Pretty insane, right? Well, let's keep going. I would also like to note that I still don't pay for medical. Whenever I have a problem, I head down to the VA and they take care of it. I haven't had a medical bill since I joined in 2007, and I've been out of the military for 3 years. I've also had several surgeries. I'm due to get my appendix removed here in about a week or so. This benefit alone is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars per year to the average American. My grandparents had open heart surgery as farmers. They were self-employed, and they had no insurance. They had to cover the cost themselves each time, and it cost them $100,000 each time they went under the knife. My dad broke his arm, and he paid $16,000 to fix it. These things go on and on. What about the $400,000 of service members group life insurance? That's pretty handy, right? Nearly $500,000 goes out to your family if you kick the bucket. How much is that worth to you? How much is it worth to your family? Do you think if you just have a wife and a single son or daughter, do you think that they can survive for a while off of $400,000? I think they can too. But what about the safety and security of being on a military base for a military that has never lost a war? How much is that security worth to you? I've paid $80 a month before for a security system, so that saves you nearly $1,000 a year. But I have to tell you, ever since I moved back to the civilian world, I've been watching my own back, and it doesn't feel good. I haven't felt less safe before in my entire life. And it's all because I don't have that protection anymore. How much is that worth to you? Now, I haven't gotten into the educational benefits and what they cover, really. It's not just the $2,700 a month that the post-9/11 GI Bill shells out. You may think that doesn't even cover the cost of my classes. But the post-9/11 GI Bill covers the cost of all of your classes. And they pay you the GI Bill stipend on top of that. It's a double benefit. My local university charges $5,000 a semester to go to school there, which is around $15,000 a year for all 3 semesters. A lot of this is rounded up for easy math, but I'm being very generous here. There are charges for books, parking fees, and all sorts of crap just rolled into these charges, and they're covered in the school fees for the university. So that's $15,000 a year divided by 12 months per year, or $1,250 of extra cash each month. So $4,800 abroad plus $1,250 equals $6,000 if we take off that $50 and we round it down. So it's $5,500 stateside plus $1,250, which equals $6,750, which is the total compensation package so far. Almost $7,000 a month compensation package straight out of high school. You could be 17 years old, join the military, and make $7,000 a month in a compensation package. That's insane. Okay, now tuition assistance pays for your school the whole time that you're in the military. So you can take as many classes as you can keep up with given your line of work. So that figure above is very real. We can actually stack that figure twice to account for the tuition assistance and the added benefit of the post-9/11 GI Bill, otherwise known as that $1,250, we can stack it again because of the tuition assistance. So $2,500. We can get that bigger compensation package going. I was born and raised in Illinois, so I'm also getting the Illinois Veterans Grant for an extra 3 years, year-round, including summer semesters of free schooling. That's a triple stack of education benefits for me. There's a limit to how much tuition assistance will cover in schooling costs, but I've never seen anyone reach that limits. In fact, they even have tuition assistance for spouses and children. You can actually, your spouse, your husband, your wife can take school for free because you're in the military. If I was to account for all of the money that I make, I would have to add $3,750 to that original figure, almost $10,000 of benefits, just because I'm from Illinois and I'm a veteran. Now, whenever you're in the military, switching career fields is as easy as being sent back to alternative school or MOS training. The military pays you during such training. For example, my buddy in the U.S. Navy is an IT, or a guy who works on computers. My other buddy was an aircraft mechanic, and all of my other friends were cops like me. However, we could have easily switched to each other's jobs while we were in the Navy, no problem. We'd just get sent back to the MOS schools and be back out in a jiffy. Now, it's a little bit more complicated than what I just said, but not by much. So ship servicemen works the gee-dunk in gas stations, and they basically work normal jobs for the total compensation package described above. They're cashiers, gas station attendants, or whatever. So that compensation package really beats the hell out of minimum wage. That ship serviceman could totally switch to IT. The IT A school is around 3 months long, and the ship serviceman A school clocks in at less than a month. My civilian friend, for comparison, took 2 years at Rankin Technical Institute to get a computer job. Then the company that he was working for shut down, and now he works for higher wages at Lowe's. He could have just gotten that job in the first place. So that's kind of like going from IT to ship servicemen in the Navy, but you get the idea. Just this transition in the Navy would save you at least a year and a half, even if you factor in boot camp, as well as $30,000 of student debt. Never mind the fact that my friend in the service is earning money the entire time that he's training for these other positions. And my other friend in the civilian sector is spending money that entire time, working extra jobs to earn money to go to school and learn this other trade. Our ship servicemen turned IT can now switch to my job as a cop after only 7 weeks of additional training, a feat which normally takes 3 to 6 months for police academies in the civilian sector. Now, this is starting to get ridiculous, but our now cop can switch to being a cook, mailman, aircraft repairman, plumber, regular mechanic, ship's mechanic, firefighter, etc., etc., etc. We have so many different positions within the military. Now, each one of these career transitions in the civilian sector could take years and hundreds of thousands of dollars in student debt for college. Better yet, any of these enlisted sailors can also opt to get paid to go to school for a while and become officers, doubling their paycheck. They can also fly planes like in Top Guns, or be in charge of buildings, become JAG lawyers, or break into the medical sectors as any type of doctor or physical therapist, or even become a scientist and get paid by the military to study basically whatever the hell they want. Getting paid to go to school with an actual guaranteed job at the end of it, instead of just hoping that you'll break into the sector at the end of it, is pretty sweet no matter which way that you try to say it. And I haven't even gotten to the retirement benefits yet. It gets better. You can retire after 20 years with half your paycheck for the rest of your life, but it's really not much. Remember, it's just your paycheck, not your benefits package. A retiring E6 will barely crest $1,500 a month, which is hardly enough to live on in the place where I'm in right now. An E8 will get something more along the lines of $2,500 a month, but they still aren't living anywhere too overly nice. The officers are making the real money, retiring at over $4,000 a month for O5s and $8,000 a month for O10s. Now that's for life. I want to stress that. $8,000 a month forever. Can you imagine 2 O10s retiring after 20 years, getting together, getting married, a $16,000 a month retirement house? If anybody remembers the evil villain off of Gargoyles that had a castle on top of a skyscraper, you know what I'm imagining right now. After 30 years, you can make the big bucks, retiring with 3/4 your income in the military forever. That's around $2,500 a month, retiring at the lowest end of the scale to almost $15,000 a month at the top of the scale. What does a $30,000 a month household even do? Build pyramids? That's incredible. Hell, even the guys in the reserves can make up to $1,600 a month in a single weekend drilling. That's 2 days of work to pay all of my bills and then some. But I prefer going to school. I think college is fun, actually. So now you can see why it's almost impossible to make more money in the civilian sector than in the military sector. And the only job requirement is to watch what you eat a little bit, work out sometimes, run 3 miles a year, and do a couple push-ups and some sit-ups. Those are U.S. Navy requirements. I'll take it. Even boot camp is only 9 weeks for the Navy, and what's 9 weeks for the rest of your life? Now take a look around. Do you know anybody making figures like this? Do you know anyone that even knows anybody that's making cash like this? Now you can really see how rare it is. I know that 1% of the population or less is actually in the military, but you think you're going to make billions of dollars in a field until you get a job there. For example, my aunt has a master's in psychology, or at least she's one thesis away from it, and she barely crests $1,800 a month after taxes. Her words, not mine. I didn't even mention the fact that you don't pay taxes in the military. Your income isn't taxed. My aunt was lucky to get the position that she did. Try out doctors or lawyers. How much does it cost them in startup fees to lease out their place of business and hire staff? How much do they actually receive working at a hospital or law firm? You may think that they're getting $100,000, $150,000, but once you factor in their school bills, advertising costs for chiropractors, lawyers, and dentists, do they even receive any of the money that they reportedly make? Or is it all eaten up by this fee and that fee, paying off student loans, leasing out an office building, paying your receptionist, paralegal, your staff, and your big flashing sign by the side of the highway? Unless you're an actor, activist, or scam artist, it's damn hard to make as much money and benefits as the people in the military do. Now, the earliest that you can join is at age 17 with your parents' sign-off. After 40 years, they will force you to leave. They'll force you to retire. So imagine being 57 years old and retiring with $15,000 a month, or 47 with around that amount. Even 37. My mother is 46 this year, and she has 3 jobs, which all qualify as ship servicemen in the Navy. She could have retired already, almost twice. My grandparents are past the age where they get Social Security, and they're both working as farmers. The only actual retired person I know is my grandmother on my dad's side, and she's in her 70s. She doesn't own a skyscraper castle combo. People in blue zones live an average of around 105 years, and I think the oldest person alive lived to 122. Imagine being retired for literally half your lifespan or more. It's unbelievable whenever you really start adding these numbers up. That's why I'm rejoining the military as an officer. I did my 4 years as enlisted, and now I'm getting back in as a psychotherapist for the U.S. Navy. Honestly, I should have never left. But if I didn't, I wouldn't have grown to appreciate the military like I do now. I lost a little bit of time, but I'm going to make it up on the back end, that's for sure. So go to your local recruiter. Tell them that you want to join. Go order P90X or Insanity and do it, and you'll be in much better shape than most of the applicants that try to join. My local university has an ROTC program that will pay for all of your schooling and pay you to go to school, so go do that. Go down to the Naval Academy in Maryland, and they'll pay you to go to school. There's plenty of different free tuition schools to choose from. Even if you only do 4 years in the military, you'll be that much better off than everybody else ever. Just like me not having to pay to go to the hospital ever again. A lot of people don't want to move to do this job, but that's an extremely dumb reason to not join the military. Have you seen the world? Are you sure that your town in your state is the best place on earth to be for yourself, for your kids, for your husband or wife? Most jobs that are worth a damn require you to move. Hell, even actors have to be on location 90% of the time. Case in point being the actors from the Lord of the Rings movies having to live in trailers, tiny little sets in New Zealand for the entire filming of the movies, which took years for the whole series. Some of these actors are only children, and they have the balls to move, and you don't? That's a bad reason not to go. The schools on these bases are usually AAA schools, which are better than most private schools. And I haven't even mentioned the fact that most military people get an average of a 66% pay increase whenever they get married to accompany their spouse. They actually get extra money for each dependent, including both children that you have and aging parents. Spouses have tuition assistance, and if one of you works, the other one doesn't even have to. It's not a requirement. Imagine your child being bilingual or even trilingual because their friends at the AAA schools that are on base come from every culture. If your child is bilingual or trilingual, the worst that they can do in life is get $100,000 a year as a job as a translator. That's not a bad bottom line. So go talk to people who are in the military. Often they say things like, I didn't like it whenever I was in, but I wouldn't trade the experience for the world. That's a lot like how I felt until I really started adding this stuff up. All of these pictures are of places and things that I've done because of the military. I would have never left the country if it weren't for the military, and I'd probably be in jail. The military saved my life, and that's the truth of the matter. Now, I don't have any other slides for you. I don't have any more information for you. The reason that I put this all together was just because I was driving around one day, and I had a long time between the place I was and my destination. So I came up with all these figures in my head, trying to see whether or not I can take the job at Academy, but I have to turn it down. There's just so much bigger of a compensation package if I go back into the military. But it's not just the money to me. It's a lot more. The military gave me the chance to be looked up to by my little brothers at the very least, but also people all around the world. Every Veterans Day, whenever people say thank you for your service, it means so much to me. There's a possibility that the prior service recruiter won't let me back in. There's a possibility that I can go and get my bachelor's degree and the officer recruiter doesn't want to have anything to do with me. There's a possibility that they won't let me back into the military. And the least that I can do is give them somebody else like you for all that they have done for me in my life. And the least that you can do is get out of the situation that you're in. I have so many different friends. One of them has turned to prostitution as a way to pay her bills. Another one, my mother has 3 different jobs, and she barely has time to see the possessions that she has worked so hard to earn, to see her family who she's worked so hard to clothe, and to give them food to eat. Even my stepfather has 2 different jobs, and everybody is always doing something, some sort of weird, screwy thing just so they can exist out here in this civilian world. And it doesn't have to be this way. If you don't want to join the military, then at least travel. Get a job working from home. Go live in the Philippines where it's much cheaper to live. And people have been living there for centuries. Come on. It's not like you're going to be the one that passes away the second that you step on a plane. Dream, dare to dream, and do something different than what everybody else is doing. You know, less than 1% of the population of the planet of any given country is in the military, and that's really lonely whenever you think about it. Once I got out of the military, I realized just how lonely it is, not being able to empathize with anybody because they haven't been through what you have been through. But the big thing about it is that there's no real difference between somebody who's weird and somebody who's cool. It's just what you think about them. So you have to go out and be weird. First, you have to be unusual in order to become extraordinary. So go out and do something that's extraordinary. Go do an internship in another country where you don't earn any money, but they pay for all your food and board. Room and board is included. And go travel to another country. Go do something. Go to your local recruiter and see whether or not you can't join, at least in the capacity of a reservist. Go do something different and escape this lifestyle. I've got another friend who's got an associate's degree from college, and the only way that he can pay his bills is by selling drugs. You shouldn't have to risk police action and the possibility of dying over a couple of drugs just to keep the lights on in your house. It's not cool, and it's not fair to any one of us. So do something that is a little more fair to you. Go do something that is truly unusual. Even if you don't join the military, do something, because I guarantee that you will never ever regret it. Whenever I got sent back from South Korea because the government shut down and I didn't get any money, I've never regretted the trip up there. So you got to go out and do something unusual, or else you're going to end up like the rest of us, wheeling and dealing just to try to keep the lights on from day to day. And that's not what I want for you. That's not what you want for you. So try it out. There's a lot of different options. I'm just trying to show you the way. They don't give me anything if you go down to the recruiters. I'm out, and I've been out for quite some time. I'm not going to get a cookie if you mention my name. So try something out. Hopefully you'll be able to leave the country too. Hopefully you'll be able to do something amazing for yourself. Thanks for watching.